What if one narrow waterway could shake the entire global economy? What if a single political conflict could suddenly make gasoline more expensive in cities thousands of miles away? Every time tensions rise between Iran and the United States, the world starts watching oil prices. Traders panic, governments react, and millions of people feel the impact of the gas pump. But why does this happen? Why does a conflict in the Middle East suddenly make fuel more expensive around the world? And could a larger conflict push oil prices to historic highs? To understand this, we first need to understand the role oil plays in the modern world. Oil is not just another natural resource. It is the lifeblood of the global economy. Almost everything around us depends on it in one way or another. Cars, trucks, cargo ships, and airplanes all rely on petroleum fuels to move goods and people across the planet. Factories use energy derived from oil to produce countless products that people use every day. Even items like plastics, fertilizers, and synthetic fabrics are created from petroleum. Because of this enormous dependence, global demand for oil remains extremely high. The world consumes more than 100 million barrels of oil every single day. When supply is stable, prices remain relatively balanced. But when supply is threatened or uncertain, markets react quickly, and prices can rise almost overnight. One of the biggest reasons tensions with Iran influence global oil prices is because Iran itself is a major energy power. The country possesses some of the largest proven oil reserves on Earth. For decades, it has played an important role in supplying crude oil to international markets. Even when international sanctions limit its exports, Iran still produces millions of barrels of oil every day. However, Iran's importance goes beyond the amount of oil it produces. Its geographical location is even more significant. Iran sits along one of the most critical oil transportation routes in the world. Energy experts often call this location the most important oil choke point on the planet. That choke point is known as the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. On a map, it may appear small, but its strategic importance is enormous. Roughly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow passage every day. That means nearly 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil used across the globe travels through this route. Several of the world's biggest oil producers rely heavily on this passage to export their energy resources to global markets. These include countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. If something disrupts this passage, even temporarily, the entire global oil market can feel the shock. The relationship between Iran and the United States has been tense for many decades. One of the major turning points came during the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Before that event, Iran and the United States maintained relatively close political relations. After the revolution, the political system in Iran changed dramatically, and relations between the two countries deteriorated rapidly. Over the following decades, disputes over regional influence, nuclear programs, sanctions, and military actions increased the tension between them. These tensions have occasionally escalated into serious confrontations that attracted global attention. One of the most dramatic moments in recent history occurred during the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in 2020. The Iranian general was killed in a drone strike ordered by the United States. The event immediately shocked the international community and raised fears of a wider military conflict in the Middle East. In the hours following the news, oil markets reacted instantly. Prices surged because traders feared retaliation, escalation, and potential disruption of oil supply routes. Even though a full-scale war did not occur, the market reaction demonstrated how sensitive energy prices are to geopolitical tensions in this region. Whenever tensions increase between Iran and the United States, several fears immediately appear in the oil market. The first and most important concern is the possibility of supply disruption. If conflict threatens shipping routes or oil infrastructure, companies transporting crude oil may halt operations or reroute shipments. Oil tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz could face security risks, which may cause shipping companies and insurers to reconsider sending vessels through the area. Even the possibility of disruption can make traders nervous. As soon as markets believe that supply might decrease, oil prices start to climb. The second concern is the risk of military conflict spreading across the region. The Persian Gulf contains a large portion of the world's oil production infrastructure. Refineries, pipelines, export terminals, and drilling platforms are spread across multiple countries in the region. In the event of war, these facilities could become targets or suffer damage from military activity. If production facilities are damaged or forced to shut down, global oil supply could drop quickly. Because oil demand remains extremely high, even a small reduction in supply can cause prices to surge. The third factor is economic sanctions. Over the years, the United States has imposed various sanctions on Iran aimed at limiting its ability to sell oil internationally. When sanctions restrict Iranian exports, millions of barrels of oil can disappear from the global market. This tightening of supply often pushes prices upward, especially when global demand remains strong. Oil markets constantly monitor political negotiations, diplomatic talks, and policy decisions related to sanctions because these developments can significantly influence supply levels. Another powerful element that drives oil prices during geopolitical tensions is market psychology. Financial markets do not react only to events that have already happened. They also react to risks that might happen in the future. Traders constantly evaluate political signals, military movements, and diplomatic statements. Even rumors of conflict can trigger sudden price movements. Oil futures markets are extremely sensitive to risk because energy supply disruptions can affect economies around the world. As a result, investors often react quickly when they believe geopolitical instability could threaten oil production or transportation. When oil prices rise, the consequences spread far beyond the energy sector. Higher oil prices increase transportation costs across the global economy. Trucks transporting goods across highways must pay more for diesel fuel. Cargo ships moving products between continents face higher operating expenses. Airlines must spend more money on jet fuel to keep planes in the air. As transportation costs rise, companies often pass those additional costs on to consumers. This means everyday products become more expensive. Food prices can also increase when energy costs rise. Agriculture relies heavily on fuel for tractors, irrigation systems, food processing, and transportation. When fuel becomes more expensive, the cost of producing and distributing food increases as well. As a result, rising oil prices can contribute to broader inflation across the global economy. This is why governments, economists, and financial institutions closely watch developments in oil markets whenever geopolitical tensions appear in major energy-producing regions. Some analysts warn that if a large-scale conflict were ever to break out between Iran and the United States, oil prices could spike dramatically. In extreme scenarios, energy experts have suggested that crude oil prices could climb to $150 or even $200 per barrel. Such a dramatic increase would send shockwaves through the global economy. Many countries rely heavily on imported oil to power their transportation systems and industries. Rapid price increases could slow economic growth, increase inflation, and create financial instability across multiple regions. Because of these risks, world leaders often try to prevent tensions from escalating into full-scale conflict. Diplomatic negotiations, international mediation, and strategic military deterrence are frequently used to maintain stability in the region. The goal is to protect global energy supplies and avoid disruptions that could harm economies worldwide. At the same time, the world is slowly transitioning toward alternative sources of energy. Renewable technologies such as solar power and wind energy are expanding in many countries. Electric vehicles are becoming more common, reducing reliance on gasoline-powered transportation. Governments and corporations are investing billions of dollars into clean energy infrastructure in an effort to reduce dependence on fossil fuels like oil. However, this transition will take many years. For the foreseeable future, oil will continue to play a central role in powering the global economy. As long as that remains true, geopolitical tensions in key oil-producing regions will continue to influence energy markets. Events involving Iran and the United States will likely remain a major factor shaping oil prices and global economic stability. In the end, the connection between political conflict and oil prices comes down to a simple reality. Iran is both a major oil producer and a country located beside one of the most important oil shipping routes in the world. When tensions rise between Iran and the United States, markets fear that oil supply could be disrupted. Those fears cause traders to react quickly, and prices rise as a result. The impact spreads from international markets to local gas stations, affecting businesses, governments, and ordinary people everywhere. In a world so deeply dependent on energy, even the possibility of conflict in a strategic region can send ripples across the entire global economy.